Joining us now is Frank Zappa, one of this country's finest musicians and composers of modern music. He is also the author of The Real Frank Zappa book, and he's a filmmaker, and he has developed a rather extensive knowledge of doing business with the Soviet Union. That being said, welcome, Frank, to FNN Focus.
How you doing, Bob?
How'd you get involved in doing business with the Russians?
By accident.
How?
A friend of mine who has a guitar company called Kramer Guitars had planned to open a guitar factory in the Soviet Union. So he called me up and was talking to me about this, and I said, "You're crazy. Why do you want to do that?" This is quite some time ago. And I tried to dissuade him from doing it, and instead he says, "Why don't you go to Russia and take a look around?" So I went with him, and this was last February, and I was amazed at what I saw over there.
How many deals have you put together between Western business people and the Soviets?
The only thing that I've actually completed so far is one deal with a Southern California company that wants to buy amber from the Soviet Union. But there's all kinds of other things that are in various stages of getting done.
You, in essence, you're a deal maker, you're a go-between?
Yes.
Okay. What don't we understand about doing business with them?
What do we understand about it?
What do we don't understand? I mean, they're new at this. What should we be aware of? What should we understand before trying to do business with the Soviets?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that the laws governing contracts are rather flexible, and they have been changing constantly. Many changes since the first time that I went there. Also, if you go over there, and let's say you know somebody in the Soviet Union, you make a trip, and you start meeting people and get ready to do some kind of a contract. The Russians are so unaware of Western business practices, the only word they know is joint venture. But you should be advised that there are at least 5 different kinds of contracts that you can be involved in with a Russian cooperative.
Such as?
Well, you can do a licensing deal, for one thing. You are forced to do a joint venture if you are bringing money into the country, technology into the country, or some machinery into the country.
Okay, there was a...
Yes?
Go ahead, Frank.
No, I'll let you go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, okay. There was a report out tonight that the Soviets are speeding up all proposed joint ventures between the West and Soviet entrepreneurs because they frankly need the money. They need the hard currency, and they need it fast.
Well, I think this is terrific. I hope that they speed it up even further than they think they're speeding it up. Right now, if you were optimistic, if you were involved in a joint venture dealing in the Soviet Union, it's going to take 6 months, maybe a year, by the time you've gone through all the different steps and ironed out all the wrinkles in your relationship with them. Speeding it up, what could that mean? Bringing it down to 3 months?
I have no idea.
I hope
I have no idea. I do know one thing, that this year alone that they've had almost 900 joint ventures, and in the previous 2 years they had less than 200, so they are obviously in the mood to do a lot of joint ventures.
Yeah, well, the thing that I like to point out to people is, remember when Gorbachev went to West Germany and was, meeting with the German businessmen? He gave them a little speech and he said, "Come on in, let's do business, bring us big deals. We'll make sure you get your money out." You remember that little speech?
Yep.
He made it to the Germans, he didn't make it to us. Now,
why?
Well, partly because I think Americans have been reluctant to really jump in there and do stuff. And it would be a big boost to deals between U.S. businessmen and Soviet businessmen if Gorbachev would make some version of that speech or say something like that to George Bush when they have their little summit. That key part, "We'll make sure you get your money out." That's the one that everybody wants to hear.
Okay, speaking of money, as you know, the ruble is not convertible. How do you make money from them?
Well, let me say something about the ruble, just in theory, okay?
Okay.
People say the ruble is worthless. You know what? The ruble is worth exactly what the dollar is. Neither currency is based on gold. They're both pieces of paper dealing in imaginary value. Now, if we could conceptually understand this, it would be a little bit easier for U.S. businessmen to take the plunge and go in there. One day there will be a ruble which is tradable, if not in the United States, certainly in the EEC. And I would say, I would give it 3 years, 4 years before that would happen. And if they want to speed up the joint ventures even further, whatever steps need to be taken on the Soviet side to harden that currency should be taken immediately.
How has Gorbachev's order to devalue the ruble affected doing business?
Well, part of what's confusing that is they had talked about setting up this special free enterprise zone along either side of the canal between the Soviet Union and Finland, where they were going to have a special currency of a golden ruble. I don't know whatever happened with that. And also another zone in another part of the country. And there were some protests within the zone. People said, we didn't want this. And there was another slight problem with setting up this special zone. It was going to be governed from Moscow. And I think that in terms of practicality, they didn't really work out all the details on it before they announced it.
Does it help or hurt you when you do business with them that you're Frank Zappa, or does it matter?
It helps.
They know who you are?
Yes, they do.
Does it help or hurt?
It helps.
Really?
Yeah.
What about doing something with your music over there, selling them,
Well,
whatever you've got, setting up a record company over there?
As far as the music goes, when I went there, I wasn't trying to do musical stuff, but the host who was showing us around is a guy named Stas Namen. He took me to Melodia, which is the national record company, and in one afternoon I made a deal to have some of my albums distributed there.
I don't want you to tip your hand if you're working on a deal, but just if you can give us some examples of some things Americans could think about doing with the Russians that they need, or they would be willing to buy, or they could make over there for us.
Well, let me tell you one thing that would be very timely now that winter is coming. One thing they need very badly is windshield wipers.
Really?
If you go there in the wintertime and you're in a cab or you're in a car, when the guy parks the car, the first thing he does is take his windshield wipers off because they don't have any and somebody will steal it if he doesn't take it off and carry it with him.
It's kind of like radios here in New York.
But it's more valuable because if you can't see out your window, you ain't going no place. You can always hum to yourself.
Great example. Give me some others if you can.
Well, toilet paper, this is not a joke. They are
I understand.
They do have something that they call toilet paper, but it's not everywhere.
Closer to wax paper?
No, it is very rough, and whatever chemicals they use to make the paper stay in the paper, and it can eat the bottom half of your body off if you use it. That's if you can find it. Now, I would advise any Western businessman going to the Soviet Union to buy many little packages of Kleenex and keep those in your pocket, because if you have to go to a public toilet, you will not find any paper in the public toilet at all.
How concerned should American business people be with the current economic crisis they're having in the Soviet Union? They celebrated the Bolshevik Revolution today, and there were mass protests against the government. There was a poll released on Sunday suggesting that 90% of the people in the Soviet Union think they are in for hard times and that things are not good over there.
Well, things are not good over there. However, there's another view, which was expressed on a CBS Night Watch show, Charlie Rose show that I saw last week, an interview with a black reporter from the Moscow News who gave this aspect of it. They know that things are going to be tough, but there are people there who would rather have freedom than to have a little extra sugar, an extra tea bag, or a little more toilet paper. There are many people who are willing to put up with that in the hopes that their country will become more free.
The other knock against the Soviet Union is that their workmanship ain't the best.
There is an exception. Now, in one case where I was talking with a Soviet official about what the possibilities were of setting up manufacturing there, he told me they have military factories which they are decommissioning, and all the best labor in the country are the people who work in these factories. So I would advise any U.S. manufacturers that are looking to have something built over there, you could make a deal to get some kind of recommissioned military factory for your product.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll open up our phone lines for Frank Zappa, 1-800-283-FINN. Stay with us here on FNN Focus on the Financial News Network. We'll be back.
The tickets on Air Rangoon. Does this kind of life look interesting to you as a big rock and roll guitar player in a comedy group? Hana, hana, hana.